Hey, what's up everyone? This is Sam with Rokoko. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be recording 3 different motion capture animations using the Rokoko Smart Suit Pro. And then I'm going to bring those animations into Cinema4D, and I'm going to show you how to use the Retarget tag to quickly switch between those different animations. So the great thing about the Retarget tag in Cinema4D is that once you've gone through the process of rigging and binding your motion capture data to a mesh or to geometry or to a character, once you've done that one time, the Retarget tag allows you to swap in new animations on the fly, and it makes it really easy to have several different animations with a single character. So I'm going to be showing you 2 different ways that you can rig a character. One to a character or a mesh that is not rigged and doesn't have a skeleton, and then one way to rig your character to a mesh that does come with a skeleton and already has all the weight painting done for you and everything. Without further ado, I'm going to jump into the suit and we're going to record 3 different animations that we're going to be swapping between in Cinema4D. Okay, and there we go. So first thing I'm going to do is put my suit into my character, named Sam, and perform a straight pose. That looks good. Do some requisite kung fu moves. So now we're going to record 3 animations. The first one is just a basic dancing animation. The second is going to be kind of a scared, panicked, kind of villager type animation. Oh no, volcanoes, invaders. Okay, and then the third is going to be someone looking at their cell phone and then getting angry and throwing their cell phone away. Okay, and there we go. So first thing I'm going to do is rename each of our takes into anim 1, 2, and 3, so just to keep things organized. Then I'm going to use some of the filters and tools within Rokoko Studio to clean up some of the data. We have lots of tutorials on our YouTube channel for these filters, so I encourage you to go check them out. Okay, now that we've finished our cleanup, we're just going to select the 3 animations, and then we are going to use the default Newton skeleton for this tutorial. So we're going to export all 3 animations using that skeleton. Okay, we're done. Now we're going to bring them into Cinema4D and get started there. Here we are in Cinema4D. This is R20, not R21, and I'll be explaining where things might be in a different location if you're on R21 as we go along. I've saved my project, first things first, and now we're just going to import our motion capture data that we exported. So we can just import them one at a time. Default settings are fine. And as they come in, I'm going to rename them, keep everything organized. So this is our dancing, whoop, whoop. And we'll just keep file, merge, add the next one. Okay, and so now we have our 3 separate animations, and if we play them, you can see that, and we can hide the second 2. So if you hold down Alt and you click these little circles, it'll do both of them at the same time. And so this is our dancing. This is our scared villager, kind of panic, oh no, animation. And this is our cell phone, on your cell phone, and then throwing it. So we have our 3 animations, and what we're going to do first is we're going to bind this animation, this first animation, Animo1, to a mesh, or to a character. And the thing that the retarget tag is going to help us with is that once we've done that once to this first animation, the retarget tag allows us to just switch in a new animation for that mesh without having to re-rig and rebind a mesh to each of these animations. So you can just kind of swap in and out new animations, which makes it really easy. Okay, so now we want to bind this first animation to a mesh. And for this mesh, we're just going to use the Cinema4D figure. And it comes in a T-pose already, but I'm going to make it a little bit more challenging for myself just because oftentimes you'll download a character or something and it won't be in a T-pose. And so you need to move the rig, these joints, into position before you can bind the rig to this character. And so I'll show you how I go about doing that, and it's pretty easy. So first thing, I'm just going to move this figure down to the bottom. I'm going to make it editable, so that will give us all the different individual parts of this figure. I'm just going to move the arms kind of into a... Sometimes you get characters that will be in this kind of pose, you know, with the arms down instead of the T-pose. So that's a pretty common one that I've found. In order to bind this geometry to this animation, it needs to be a single mesh, so we can't have all these different parts. Or that will just make it easier. So I'm going to right-click, go to Select Children, then I'm going to go to Connect Objects and Delete, and now we just have a single mesh. It makes it cleaner, easier to handle, and it makes it really easy to bind these joints to it. So in order to move these into position, and remember these are all keyframed joints, it's really easy. I'm just going to go to the first frame. I'm going to turn on auto keying right here. And now any movement I make will affect the keyframe on that joint. So I can just move these joints into position, and if you have a character model that is different, that weirder than this, it's really easy to move these joints into position. I find it, and usually you'll get a pretty good result. As with anything, the more time and effort you put into it, the better the result will be. I'm just kind of doing it quickly because that's all we need, and it will work pretty well, just like this, and it will most of the time. So there we go. Joints are now moved in position. I turned off auto keying, as you can see here. So if we always go to the first frame, it will always be in that position now, instead of the T-pose that it was a second ago. So now that the joints are in position, all we have to do is right-click on our animation, select Children, then we're going to Control-click on our geometry, on our mesh, this character, and then we're just going to go up to Character, and under Commands, we're going to go to Bind. In Cinema4D R21, bind is no longer under commands, I believe. It's just under here. So, but in R20, it's here still. So we're going to click bind with those selected, and adds the little wait tag there. And now if we hit play, boom, character is all rigged up. It's doing the motions. If I turn off the joints there, looks great. So I don't want to have to do that every single time for every new animation I have. Now that we've done that once, the retarget tag will allow us to hot swap in, new animations. And that, as long as we're exporting from Rokoko Studio with the same type of skeleton that we did, or the same joint chain that we did for this first one, it'll always work and it will match, and it'll be really easy to add new animations, and you just need to do this rigging process once. And again, that can be time consuming to get right. So once you've done it once, you don't want to have to do it again. So that's what the retarget tag allows you to do. So to use it, we're just going to click on our animation here, go into tags, character. Again, in R21 now, it's under rigging, but in R20, it's under character, retarget. We're going to add it to our animation that is driving our character right now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to drag the new source animation that we want into the source here, so this second animation. And the target is the animation that we're currently using, the joints that we're currently using. So, and there we go. You can see it kind of swapped there. And now we have the scared animation driving our character. And if we want, let's put in the cell phone animation. Boom, cell phone animation. I can do this while it's playing. Oh my gosh, swap. So as you can see, that makes it super easy now to add new animations. So if you want to, and we can, if you go to basic here, you can disable it and it'll go back to dancing. Run that through. Enable it. Up, scared. And if we want to add in the cell phone animation, now we have the cell phone animation. Okay, so that is how you would use the retarget tag with a rig that you bound yourself, that didn't come already rigged with a skeleton. So how do we use the retarget tag with a rig that does have a skeleton, say from Mixamo? So let's go through that process right now. Let's go to our Mixamo, and I'm just gonna use this character. He's pretty humanoid already, but this process will also work with characters with odder, shaped limbs. So I would basically select my character. This guy, use this, then I would go to animations, T-pose, select T-pose, and this is what I want to download. So I'll download this. And if we jump back into Cinema4D, we can import, file merge our Mixamo T-pose, bring it in, default settings. I don't want to reassign takes. He's really big. I like to have them to be, relatively the same size, so I'm going to grab him. So that's the mesh and then the rig that came from Mixamo. Alt-G, we'll group them. Mixamo rig. And then I will, if you want to scale down a rigged character, you can't just, if you hit T, you can't just, that won't work. You can't just scale it. Instead, you have to put it in a null and then use these guys, or use the scale here to resize it. I'm going to use this one. Usually it's about some variation of 10%. In this case, 0.1. And then I'm just going to line them up. And move them back. And if we hide our figure, we are actually going to parent, we're going to use the second animation because we want to use, when we're using constraint tags, we want to have the two characters that are being constrained. We want them to be in the same position, relative position. So we want them both to be in a T-pose. We want the hands to be facing the same direction. And that way, the parenting process will work smoothly. The way that this process works is I'm going to hide my geometry and expand out the Mixamo rig. And what I'm going to do is I like to work from the outside in. So I'm going to start from the head, and on each of these joints for the Mixamo rig, I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose a constraint tag, and we want position, scale, position size, rotation, one of those. And then if we go into the tab here, we want to have maintain original. And those are the settings we want for each one of these joints. So I like to just make a clean version that doesn't have a target, and then I just copy it onto each joint. And that's an easy kind of way to do this. So I'm going to take my tag, copy it, hold down Control, select the tag. So that tag is on this guy. And I want to parent it to this on our animation, and if we hit play, already it's already moving, and it's already parenting to this guy's position and rotation. We're not using scale, so as you saw, I didn't click that button. Scale is off for this. So if we keep going, I'm going to grab this again, parent it to the appropriate joint, as I can tell on these two rigs. Keep going. And so this process is a little bit time consuming. You have to go through and you have to do this. But once we've done it once, remember, we will not have to do it again. We'll just use the retarget tag to add in any new animations. So it's really not that bad. And it takes, it'll take me about, a couple minutes to do this, which isn't terrible. The other thing is, as you can see here, our Mixamo rig only has 2 joints here, and our Newton rig, our Rokoko rig, has 3. So sometimes you just kind of have to guess, and you have to play around with which joint you're binding to. On this one, as you can see, it's this joint here, this spine. Because it's connecting to the hips next, I'm going to parent it to this bottom one, because this bottom one will connect with the hips. And I want that relationship to be intact. I don't want to parent this to this middle one which isn't connected to the hips. So I'm going to go through and finish and do the rest of these. So now that we've gone to the hand, we do not have to do each of these finger joints. We just have to do the hand, because we don't actually have any data coming in for the fingers as of yet. So we don't need to, add constraint tags to every single one of these. Fortunately, we can just stop right at the hand here. Okay, we're done. And if we hit play, we should get a good result here. Yay! I'm going to delete this as our little original one, and if I turn our mesh back on, look at that. We have a Mixamo rig working through the Rokoko animation data. So that is more time consuming, obviously, than the first method that we did using our figure, where we just moved the joints into position and then hit bind. That, this takes a little bit of time. It's not that bad. It took me 5 minutes, but I definitely don't want to have to do that every single time I add a new animation to this character. If I have, if I hide these and I have this cell phone animation that I want to use later, I don't want to have to go in and add constraint tags and do the entire process again. So that is where we can use the retarget tag again. So if we bring our guy back, and we are bound to this anim2 now for this one. Again, because it was in a T-pose on the first frame, when we do the constraint process, we want them to both be in a T-pose, and a T-pose that has the same orientation, as best we can, on especially the arms. That is where you will get some funky results if you don't do it in a T-pose. So you want to start from this position. But now that we've done it, if we want to use the other animations, all we're going to do is add a retarget tag to the animation. So add a retarget tag. I'm going to drag in the retarget tag's subject animation into the target, and currently our animation is the scared animation, so we want it to be the cell phone animation. And as you can see there, the Rokoko animation changed, so that's working, but this one is still parented to our original animation here. And in order to get this to work, we just need to go into our target tag, and change this to animation. And now, every time we swap in a new animation, If we go back to the tag and we add in our dancing. Oh, dancing! Cell phone. We can turn it off and have our original scared animation. So there you go. That is how you use the retarget tag to add in new animations to a character that that you got that already had a rig. And the great thing about characters like that is oftentimes the method that we used for this, the character bind, that was using an automatic weight painting system. So we weren't having to paint, for each joint, the weight of where, which geometry it was affecting. A lot of characters will have, if we go back to Mixamo, and we go to characters, this guy, for example, if we just use that automatic bind method on this Maje Lego, I'm not sure if I'm doing that right, but that will not give us good results because the head joint is gonna, pick up this thing and it's all gonna bend weird and it's not gonna look good. We would want to use our Rokoko animation to drive the joint chain that Mixamo would give us, because Mixamo is already doing all the work of making sure that the antlers are being driven by the head, and not the neck, and that it's all gonna work smoothly. So that's why this method, using the constraint tags, while a little bit more time intensive and work intensive, can make more sense sometimes. But again, once you do it one time, you have that retarget tag, and you never have to do it again. And now we can keep recording new animations and feeding them into this character, and it's already rigged. So that was how you use the retarget tag in Cinema4D. Hopefully you guys found that to be helpful and useful. Please put any questions you have or thoughts you have in the comments below. Have fun with your suits, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.